the smart lock that learned his name before I did. At 6:11 a.m., my phone vibrated with the kind of politeness that pretends it's not bringing a blade. "Good morning, Taras," the app chirped. "Last night, temporary code Milo used at 2:22 a.m. door relocked at 2:24 a.m. Would you like to extend guest access?" Underneath, the activity feed drew a thin gray heartbeat through the night, and there in the middle of it pulsed my humiliation. Milo granted entry. The hallway still held a pocket of warmer air near the jamb, a ghost of someone tall. The rug, our little woven lie about being tasteful, remembered a heavier step than mine. Beyond the door, Katia slept facing the window the way people do when they're learning to leave, her hair like a blackout curtain on her cheek. The smart lock's ring sat quiet and stainless over the knob, innocent as chrome ever is. I opened the app again as if a second look could edit the hour. Before our door learned to pronounce strangers, we were the kind of ordinary that seasons envy and gardeners understand. Katia slept with her palms spread over my ribs like she was taking attendance of my breath. On Sundays, I ironed pillowcases because flat cotton felt like a promise you can keep with heat alone. The balcony forgave being too narrow for two chairs by letting us take turns and calling it choreography. At night, when rain rehearsed on the parapet, we cracked the window and let the city wash its face while we washed each other's. She would hook her knee behind my thigh like a knot meant for boats, and I'd find with my mouth that nickel-bright patch beneath her collarbone where breath decides it wants to be flame. Then drift moved in by degrees. Rosemary left the kitchen, a mineral citrus colonized the air, and her phone decided it liked a two-note chime at 12:06 and 12:11 brisk, as if a smaller house had been built inside ours and installed its own doorbell. "London," she said once, catching my glance. "Their morning keeps trespassing on my midnight." She began showering in the dark. "Migraine," she told the mirror. I learned to shave by memory and called it loyalty because questions are expensive in a currency you don't get back. The lock's history showed tidy lines nobody could argue with. 2:21 temporary code activated, 2:22 door unlocked, 2:24 door locked, 2:26 bedroom lights to 20%, 2:29 diffuser on, Seabreeze number 4. The app had a new tab I'd never noticed, frequent guests. It recommended I save Milo for quick access. It even suggested a schedule. I made coffee like making fire, loud enough to be a story. Katia padded in wearing my old t-shirt and the counterfeit calm of a person who has practiced. She kissed my cheek with accurate affection, the kind that recruits your body while sparing your hope. "You were restless," she said, peering at the weather as if it were a colleague. "Dream?" "Door," I said. She laughed into the refrigerator. I love how modern our anxieties have gotten. We ate eggs at the counter because plates sound decisive when they meet wood. Under the table, her foot found my shin, our oldest code for stay. Later, in bed, she crossed her knee behind my thigh and guided my hand under her shirt like a person switching on a lamp she trusts. My mouth found the small bright coin beneath her collarbone. She made that low vowel that turns the city down. We moved with the fluency of people who have done their homework and believe in the test. In the middle, her eyes went elsewhere for a beat and returned with apology penciled along the margins. "Pencil erases clean if you don't press." I didn't press. Evidence is the frightened man's hobby. I started a folder on my laptop named Keys because I wanted the work to sound practical. Into it went screenshots of the lock's feed, the new tab suggestions, and one stupidly cheerful email from the manufacturer titled, "Make guests feel at home." Under the passenger seat of our car, my fingers found the obedient half of a cufflink, mother of pearl caught in gunmetal, a coin you could tip a ferryman with. I lifted it to the window and watched my face bend wrong inside the milky eye. In Katia's coat, A folded invoice weighted like a small theater ticket. Harbor line, 2 sea salt martinis, turntable rental, lost door hanger fee. The tip line ended with a flourish on the E you only get from people who rehearse small crimes. We met in a stairwell the night the elevator coughed and died. Stairwells tell the truth, she said, shoes in one hand, grin reckless as a dare. On the landing, she pressed her thumb to the thin place at my wrist and told me to keep still while she memorized me with her mouth. Later, in my bed, she slept with her palm on my ribs like gravity had asked her to co-sign. In the morning, the light on her shoulder made a case for faith. I took a photograph and agreed with the room about us. I went a harbor line for air, which is the word men pick when they're shopping for regret. The lobby smelled like time and polished decisions. Heat lamps out on the terrace pretended this city had ever been kind for free. A man with careful shoulders and a jawline that believed in being answered touched the air above the concierge's wrist without landing. The wrist obeyed anyway. Slate jacket, hair parted by geometry. He tipped his head when listening like the room had already voted yes. I ordered the cheapest beer the bar rescented and tipped like apology. The elevators did their arithmetic for people who confuse altitude with absolution. 7, 1, 7 again. I went home with clean hands and a pocket heavy with a milky eye. Sunday wanted witnesses. Courage likes even numbers. Her cousin Andrei can hold silence without stabbing it. My friend Oksana moves heavy furniture and refuses to narrate about it. I invited them for dinner and called it a menu test because parties are scaffolding. The apartment learned to smell like garlic telling the truth. At 7:51, Katia texted 15, which in our new arithmetic means 30. At 8:23, she came in with indoor wind on her cheeks and kissed me with accurate affection in front of them, practicing civility like a sport. We ate. Laughter borrowed our mouths. After coffee, I set my phone on the table and opened the lock app. The feed lay there in unblushing grayscale, temporary code Milo used. The door is hospitable, I said, keeping my voice as neutral as furniture. Oksana set her palm flat on the table, international sign for do not let the wood try to fly. Andrei studied my face instead of the screen, a discipline and a blessing. We should talk privately, Katia said, the conference room arriving in our kitchen. We will, I said, but I need witnesses that I didn't dream a code. They left. The room returned to being only a room. Katia touched the phone with 2 fingers and scrolled back through nights until the tidy lines began to look like stitches someone meant well with. She set the cufflink half beside it, the milky eye and the timeline pretending not to recognize each other. I told myself it was a hallway, she said finally. Somewhere I could stand without a tour guide. I liked the echo. She breathed in steady like a person who's learned to dock a ship in bad weather. Is he married? I asked, because bureaucracy disciplines ghosts. Separating, she said. A son. 9. Do you love him? The word isn't large until it takes a chair. She tilted her face toward the ceiling crack that looks like a river refusing to choose a mouth. I love who I am when I stop narrating, she said. With you I started describing myself from outside like I owed footnotes to my own breathing. He turned the placards around and said he believed the painting without the text. Her mouth softened into something honest and unhelpful. I loved us like architecture, she said quietly. I wanted weather. We're going to separate, I told her. Though we did the clean work a knife does when asked to be kind. She nodded, and the hinge between her collarbones relaxed with a relief I want to call something gentler than cruelty. Do you want me to go now? She asked. I want you to stop teaching the door to prefer his name, I said. Pick a door. I'll take the other. Leaving looks fast when your head has been packing for months. She took the hoodie, the charger that fits everything, and the scent that had colonized our corners. She left the cufflink half, the harbor line receipt with its elegant serif, and a door that wanted to show me its memory. At the threshold, she lifted her hand toward my wrist, the old code, thumb to thin skin, and changed her mind midair. The absence of contact found a way to bruise anyway. I was happy, she said, and greedy, and afraid. And sorry, you were alive, I said, so am I. He wrote once as scripts require. Corporate letterhead arranged into contrition, respect, timing, a hope we could proceed as gentlemen, a noun that fails most modern stress tests. I forwarded it to the lawyer whose office lives above a cobbler. The stairs smell like leather and old rain. She asked me the only useful question, outcome or scene. Outcome, I said, surprising the organ in me that pays for poetry. Good, she said. Bring boring, dates, doors, dollars, screenshots over speeches. One witness who loves you without auditioning, and don't send your heart by text. Judge's itch. I forwarded his note to Oksana, who replied with the three-word liturgy that belongs printed on tile: block, breathe, boil. I boiled water until the window wrote a softer weather over the city's hard face. The bed learned my outline again. The two-note phantom chimed inside my head at 12, 11 for a week, and then retired when I stopped keeping a chair out for it. I changed the Wi-Fi password to a sentence about bridges in motion and taped it inside the cabinet where we keep the salt because faith should be findable. I ironed pillowcases badly and let the crease be a record, not a failure. The lock kept trying to help. Would you like to save Milo as a trusted guest? It asked with a golden toggle that believed in itself. I tapped remove guest. Would you like to delete the code? Delete. Would you like to revoke all access? Yes. The ring around the knob pulsed once, a small, obedient heartbeat learning a new tempo. Desire didn't resign. It reorganized its shelves. Some nights my body remembers the exact weight of her knee hooking behind my thigh, and the soft, unreasonable sound she made when my mouth found the place beneath her collarbone where breath becomes heat. Memory is accurate and unkind. I let it sing to the chorus, and then I make tea. The kettle's small scream is the only emergency I obey after midnight. I press my thumb to the thin place at my wrist where her old code used to land and listen to the sentence the body never misquotes. Here, here, here. Once, because endings itch, I walked to Harbor Line at 2:22 a.m., the hour stamped under the smart lock's little lie. The lobby smelled like time and receipts. The elevators did arithmetic for people who buy altitude as if it includes absolution. I stood under heat lamps pretending summer and forgave the numbers for being innocent. The bartender poured water with the same respect he gives to men rehearsing regret and took a tip too large without making it worse. I went home with nothing but air in my hands and a decision in my throat. At the door, the ring woke and waited for a name. Open, I said, only to it. The bolt slid back with the amen of a mechanism that has decided to trust again. Inside, I set 2 chairs on the too narrow balcony and let one be empty without inventing who it was for. I opened the window an inch and let the city wash its face. I deleted every temporary code, every automation labeled guest arrival, every schedule that imagined a life with more footsteps than mine. The decree arrived on paper thick enough to cosplay gravity. I folded it and slid it beneath the tray by the door where keys and small solutions live. I took the cufflink half to a thrift shop and dropped it into a dish with other orphans. It made a polite clink like punctuation finding its proper seat. The woman behind the counter said to the air, "Some pairs sleep better apart," and I blessed her with a nod. The last time I saw Katia, the elevator performed its secular miracle of coincidence. We arrived at the lobby on the same chime. She wore a coat the color of decisions and carried a paper bag of oranges like a rationed son. "Hey," she said, neighbor quiet, "sleep." Better, I said, and the word didn't ask for applause. She adjusted her scarf and didn't touch my wrist. I admired her restraint and then my own. The doors closed and returned each of us to our earned floors. Sometimes, out of mischief or mercy, I turn the bolt by hand and listen to the door learn my name again. The lock hums once, the way small machines purr when they understand the task. I cook. I salt water. I turn the lamp low. When night comes honest and the hallway cools, I set my phone face down and let the ring sleep. If an app ever again asks whether I'd like to extend guest access at 2:22 a.m., I'll teach it the rule I taught the apartment and the man living here. Not tonight. Not anymore. My name on the latch, hold.